Hello and welcome to Board Game Gumbo. Today we're unboxing Sins by Luudos Studio. So if you're looking for this game on Board Game Geek, I would suggest searching by Sins Rise of Wrath. There are several different player decks that you can acquire, each one having to deal with one of the 7 deadly sins, and Rise of Wrath seems to have the most active forms and the most information on it. This is a game for 1 to 6 players. It plays in 50 to 90 minutes. That's largely depending on player count. A 2-player game will take about 30 minutes. Sins is a pretty straightforward deck building game. So you're going to start with a deck that you'll choose. And as you can see in here, we've actually got 3 of them. They plan to do more. So you've got some foam in here just for the other areas, but no real need to take the rest of those out. So we have 3 in this collector's box. We have Greed, we have Gluttony, and we have Wrath. So each one of these boxes, if bought separately, will support 2 players. So with all 3 of these together, you could play up to 6. And I'll just unwrap the one to show you. So here are the cards you get in the Wrath deck. Each deck has slightly different mechanics. I know the Gluttony deck is really big on card destruction. So you have all the cards in the game here, and at the back you have a few additional cards. So you have some victory cards. The way you win this game is by accumulating a certain amount of dominance. So you can vary this depending on how long of a game you want to play. The standard game length is to 2 dominance. You can do up to 3 with this. You've got just some reference cards, tells you the different phases in the game, status by and attack phases, and then the refresh. And then on the back here, just an explanation of the different terminologies in the game, and then the different symbols on the card and what they mean. Just a little introductory card there. And then we have just some basic Cosmos cards. So this is a very basic deck builder game. You're going to start with a certain number of Cosmos cards in your hand. I believe it's 5 cards around, so your deck is likely to be 10. And these are the cards you're going to start with. So this deck supports 2 players, so 2 decks of cards. Obviously, your starting cards don't have much on them. All they have is the name, Cosmos, and then this symbol at the bottom. This symbol is an omni symbol. It basically stands for any symbol in the game. And essentially, all these cards are good for is buying cards from the market. So in the middle between each player, assuming you're playing a 2-player game, you're going to have a market of cards. So there's a couple things on here. One is how much it takes to buy a card, and you'll see that on this symbol right here. So this takes 2 orange resources to buy this card, but obviously you have these Cosmos cards, which count as anything. So 2 of these cards discarded will buy you this card to your discard pile. Once you start accumulating these cards, that's when the game gets interesting, because they not only have special abilities on them, but they allow you to attack your opponent. So say we play this card during the course of our round. Anytime you play a card, whatever purpose you're using it for, you get the ability on it. And that is optional. So whenever you play this card, you could destroy it to gain the top card of your despair pile, which we haven't talked about yet, but it's basically what leads to dominance. One of the other things you can do is you can start an attack against your opponent. When you attack your opponent, you're using this symbol down here. And so I am starting a blue attack against my opponent, who has the chance to defend himself if he has a card in his hand that has a defense of blue. He can play that card. Not only does that card protect him from blue, but it actually protects him from 2 blue. Now I can continue to play cards into this attack if I have more blue cards. It doesn't even have to be the same blue card. It could just be another one. And then so on. I can even use my Cosmos cards to act as blue cards. You can't start an attack with a Cosmos card, but once you've started an attack, you can use them to continue the attack. And my opponent may not have another card that blocks blue, or may not be willing to play it, because if you play a card to block your opponent's attack, you no longer have that card on your turn. You don't get to draw after the attack. So say the attack ends here. I have succeeded in my attack by a value of 1 because I have 3 to my opponent's 2 defense. So I get to take the top card of my deck and give it to my opponent, and that creates his despair pile, which is just going to sit on the side of his play area. Now, once you get further into the game, you can essentially try to dominate your opponent. And that's where these cards come in. These cards will start out as a 0. And then once you've built up despair, you can try to dominate your opponent. What you do with that is you start flipping over cards and counting weaknesses, which is that middle value. And if that exceeds a certain number, you've gained a dominance over your opponent, and every card that you revealed gets destroyed, removed from the game. Again, you're trying to gain a total of 2 dominance in a standard game, although you can play up to 3 if you want to play a longer game. And that's really all you need to know to play Sins. Now, again, there are other decks that we're not going to get into that are essentially the same. You can mix and match them. So you could play, one person could play a Gluttony deck, the other person could play a Wrath deck. You can mix the markets if you choose to. So you can add Gluttony decks to the Wrath market. You can make just one big market pile if you want to. There are a few additional things that we did get with this because it is a collector's edition, which I'd like to show you. One is this. So one of the kind of most striking aspects of this game is the artwork. It's very nice artwork, a little adult oriented, but not too bad. And what they've done is they've created a playing card set using the different artwork from the game. And as I said, the artwork is quite good, so the deck is pretty impressive. If you like, this darker 7 sins, mortal sins type thing, it's definitely something you might be interested in. The other thing that we got with this, that I'll show you, is a set of tarot cards. And again, using art from the game. Now, I'm not much for playing cards, but I really like tarot cards. This isn't my copy of the game. This is actually a friend of the channel's copy, but I may try to talk him into letting me keep these because I have several different tarot decks. I kind of enjoy them, and these look really nice. But that's it. That's everything you'll get in Sins, the Collector's Edition. Again, that's 3 decks with more to come. There's obviously more than 3 Sins. So Luudos Studio will be creating more of these decks. If this is a game you're interested in, keep your eyes out for those.